compassion arises for those in cyclic existence. Now this is a very important point because when we come to know our own suffering, state of suffering, then it's easy to apply that in relation to others, right? Which is why when we meditate on compassion, we meditate on ourselves first, okay? And for those of you who are a bit more experienced students, that's why the faults of samsara and the various sufferings we find in samsara is a shared meditation between the so-called medium and great scopes, right, of the Lamrim. Meaning, both practitioners, whether you're interested in attaining liberation for yourself alone or full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, you need to meditate on the various faults of samsara. Then when you see the faults of samsara, you either develop a wish for you yourself to be free from that, you yourself alone, or that all sentient beings be free from that. But seeing how bad the situation of samsara is a necessary precondition for both. Okay? And then evil is shunned, meaning since you are experiencing suffering and you don't like it, you then say, okay, well, what is the cause of this? Yes, negative actions. So therefore, if in the future I don't want to experience such kind of suffering again, I need to abandon its cause, negative actions. And joy is found in virtue. Meaning, if we want to experience the opposite, happiness, then we need to cultivate its cause, virtuous actions. Okay? So thinking in this way, right, then actually we can bring our suffering experiences into the path toward enlightenment. Okay? So, in that way, this thought of suffering being 100% bad is kind of loosened. And similar to this, I want to talk a little bit about the ultimate level of reality, where everything that exists is just coming from being merely labeled by the mind. Okay. Or is that too heavy, the last topic of the day? You guys have some... You, sir, you look a bit tired. You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah? Your body is tired, but your mind is sharp?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So... There's a saying, or one stanza from the 37 Practices of Bodhisattva by Gyaltse Togme Sangpo. Actually, maybe 2 years ago, I started to teach this text here. I got about halfway done, and then we pressed pause.
To be continued.
Yeah, but on a DVD player, when you press pause, after a certain amount of time, it just stops. So maybe that's happened again.
No, it hasn't.
What?
No, it hasn't. You gotta come back, right? And everybody here will join you then.
Okay.
Right?
You will come back. I haven't been invited back.
You just did.
What kind of invitation is it? No, I'm kidding. Anyway. There's one stanza from that all suffering is like the death of a child in a dream. Yeah? To view illusory experiences as real, how exhausting. Therefore, when unfavorable circumstances arise, to view them as deceptions is the practice of a bodhisattva. Okay? Very, very nice stanza. Easy to memorize. Okay? So, all suffering experiences is like the death of a child in last night's dream. Okay? So you can just imagine, right? as long as the dream is taking place and you see like your child die, it can be very, very suffering. Yeah, I mean very very painful, right? But then when you wake up, you realize, although it appeared that the child had died, there was actually no real child who had died, right? But so all of our suffering experiences is like that, in the sense that when we go through life, we have a reification of viewing all phenomena as being real. Like there's a real I who's experiencing a real disease that's making me undergo real suffering, you know? All this, very, very, very real, and we kind of reify or cling on to the kind of true existence of phenomena, okay? Now, I think it's very significant that this, the author, Gyaltse Tokme Zangpo, you know, he says, to view illusory experiences as real, okay, how exhausting, okay? He doesn't say to view these illusory experiences as real, you know, like you're wrong, you're not in accord with reality, all these other things, right? But it's exhausting. How exhausting. Therefore, when we encounter unpleasant experiences, to view them as deceptions is a practice of a bodhisattva, okay? Now, this isn't to say that suffering does not exist, okay? That you and I don't exist. But the way it exists and the way it appears to us, the way it exists and the way it exists and the way it appears, the way it exists and the way we think it exists is not the same. Okay? So here we're getting into more the ultimate nature of reality. And so let me just talk on this for a few minutes, because it is actually this fundamental misconception about the way that phenomena, ourselves and other phenomena exist, that is actually the root of all suffering. Okay? So, as Dhammakirti says in the Pramanavartika, yeah, that first we have the sense of the self, then we have the sense of the other, yeah, and then all other mental mistakes arise in relation to these, okay? So, let's just preface this by saying, there are two levels of reality, yeah, a conventional reality and ultimate reality. So the conventional reality is left untouched by our, what we're going to be talking about now, okay? So everything, you, me, microphones, video cameras, tea, coffee, whatever, roads, trees, all these things exist, okay? So if you go out and ask someone completely untrained in philosophy, hey, does blank exist? And if they say, of course, then that's what we're talking about with conventional reality, okay? Okay? But, when we then, and if we just leave it with a kind of uninquisitive mind, then that conventional reality is perfectly functional, okay? We can order at a restaurant, get food, eat it, you know, go home, yeah, no problem. But when we start to then inquire, yeah, not does this phenomena exist, but how it exists, yeah, then we start getting into the more ultimate side, the ultimate level of reality, okay? So here, we have kind of a spectrum of existence where we can call it like subjective existence, yeah, subject being the person, yeah, or the mind, and objective existence being the like independent of a mind or an observer, things existing in and of itself. You with me? Okay. You sure? All right. Yes, I need a coffee too. No, okay, I'm just kidding. Okay, so then, all right. So now, let me ask you the famous Zen koan. Okay? If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear, it doesn't make a sound. Yes?
Yes.
Raise your hand. Be proud. Yes. But what?
Yes.
No. Wait, didn't you raise it for
No,
yes?
I was thinking.
I changed my mind. Yes. No.
No.
No. Maybe so. Okay. So you people who said yes, okay? You have a thought of objective existence of the sound. Okay?
Yeah.
Objective existence means, and how many of you, by the way, went to this conference at JNU? I saw you there, sir. Yeah? A couple of you. What do you want to say? Right? There's this thought like, about like quantum mechanics and Madhyamika philosophy. You know? Actually, when you guys go into work tomorrow, just say like, oh, what'd you do this weekend? Yeah, I went to a conference on quantum physics and Madhyamika philosophy. You'll impress your coworkers. Yeah, nice. Okay. Anyway, don't say I went on a workshop for healing anger. Then it'll take advantage of you. Okay, I'm just joking. Rebecca, you weren't laughing. Okay. All right. Anyway, so this is what I'm saying, right? Objective existence means that whatever phenomena exists independently of someone observing it. Okay? So when I ask if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. If you say yes, you're accepting that there is a sound that exists independently from an observer. That's what objective existence means. And most of you think like that. Yeah? Right? Okay. So, and most of us, okay, whether we think about it or not, there's an innate kind of grasping or belief to this kind of existence. And the most important one is in relation to ourself. Okay? So, just think of it like in this way, right? Oh, my glass, my rosary, or whatever, right? Then there's there's the possessions, and the possessor. Possessions and possessor, and they're independent from each other, right? Now, when I say my body, my mind, the grammar kind of suggests something similar, where there's an I, yeah? That is somehow the possessor of the body and the mind. Okay? So sometimes when we talk about that, it's like this, yeah? But he punched me, right? Or, he insulted me, okay? Right? Or, I am tired. Something like this, right? So sometimes we have a sense of an independent I, yeah, from the body and mind. And then sometimes there's the identification of the I with the body. Because if you punch my leg, I'll say, you punched me. Right? Okay. Anyway, don't want to get... Have I lost you guys yet? No? Really? I'm lost. No. Okay. So, now what Dharmakirti is saying is we have this sense of the I, and then we have the sense of the other. Okay? So this I isn't just the regular I that exists, but it's this, how they call it in the literature, substantially existent, self-sufficient, substantially existent I. Now what does that mean? I don't know, but again, it's kind of like this sense of an I, or like this I that's the controller or the owner of the body and mind. You know, like the boss, right? The owner, the possessor. But it's independent of those two. Okay? We have this sense. Or for example, you know, we see a picture of ourselves from like a long time ago. That's me, right? You know, when I said, right, when I lived in New York, you know. So it's almost like there's this I that has been with us since we were, you know, young, continues till now, and you know, when I retire in Tahiti later, you know, this sense of an I, right? That is the same, yeah, independent of the body and mind. Do we have this sense? Okay, take it as a hypothesis. Check. But the point is, when we have this sense of this independent I, then we have the sense of the other, okay? And then the things that we see helping the I, we develop clinging attachment toward. And the things that we see hurting the I, we develop aversion toward, okay? Then all the other mental afflictions proliferate off of those. Okay? So, because of that, we create karma. And because of that, at the time of our death, this strong clinging that we feel like, oh, that this I is going to disintegrate, clinging to our own existence activates a karmic propensity that propels us into a next rebirth. So that's the fuel that keeps the wheel of samsara going. Okay? So actually, if we want to be free, if we want to enact the ultimate healing, we have to, come to analyze how we're perceiving or how we think about that self to exist, and then analyze whether that is possible, whether that's feasible or not. And then through a process of analysis, we come to discover that the I that we think exists doesn't exist. And in so doing, the belief in that will automatically go away. Okay? Let me tell you a story just to give you an analogy that makes it a little bit easier because I'm seeing blank faces. Yes?
Can you, I think I missed it. I started with talking about conventional and subjective existence. So can you link what you just said to subjective existence?
Okay.
Is it related or?
Yeah, it's related, yeah. So, no problem. The objective existence is if a phenomena exists not depending on an observer or a mind, right? The subjective existence is like, for example, a appearance in a dream, right? Where there is no, if in our dream we see the common example is an elephant, right? There's no elephant there, right? It just is an appearance of an elephant that is kind of one with the dream mind, right? So that's completely subjective, okay? So when we talk about ultimate reality, then we have to ask ourselves, given that things do exist, where do they fall on that spectrum of objective versus subjective reality? Okay? And what I'm saying is, we have a thought that things exist objectively, independently from the mind. Yeah? And so we have to analyze whether or not that's true. Okay? So, Chandrakirti in the Majjhimika Avatara, he says, all of the mental afflictions have their root in the view of the perishing aggregates, or the view of the self. So yogis, come then to refute that self. Okay? Now, that self means the self that is, how do you say, grasped onto by the ignorance, Daksin Marikpa. Okay? So it's like this. Let me break it down. Okay. The boogeyman. Do you have the boogeyman here? No. Okay, you have something else. Okay, the boogeyman in where I come from. There's like this kind of monster that likes to hang out in children's closets. Okay? Right? So then, hello. Okay? So then children can become very afraid of the boogeyman. Okay? So then children can even go to the parents' room and say, Mommy, Daddy, the boogeyman's in my room. Okay? So, Tia, you okay? Okay, so let's just say the child comes to you and says, Tia, Mommy, the boogeyman is in my room. Okay? What do?
Show me the boogeyman.
Yeah. Okay, good. You go back to the child's room. Where's the boogeyman? In the closet. You'd open up the closet, turn on the lights, maybe move the shirts away or something. Yeah? And you show the child, there's no boogeyman there. Okay? When the child sees there's no boogeyman in the closet, then the fear of the boogeyman in the closet automatically goes away, right? So similarly, we have this mind, this ignorant mind. Ignorant here, not meaning mere not knowing, but rather ignorance that kind of reifies or believes in something that doesn't exist. Okay? So we have this mind that holds on to the existence of the objective, independent self. So then we analyze, we check if that kind of self exists or not. When we analyze and we discover it doesn't exist, then the mind that had believed in it automatically goes away with no further work. Okay? See, all phenomena is like that. It appears in one way, yet it exists in another. So even and all phenomena actually come into existence by being just labeled by the mind, independence on a valid basis, right? So the same situation, whether we call it a problem, right? Like our disease, it's a problem, or it's suffering, or this or that, right? It depends on how we think about it and how we label it with our minds, yeah? But intrinsically, even the disease or the suffering, it's like an illusion or a dream appearance, because the way it appears to us in that moment isn't actually how it exists. Yeah? So anyway, just to wrap up, it's now 6 o'clock. We were talking today about ultimate healing. We're going to continue again tomorrow. But what we talked about today We talked about the potential of the mind for radical transformation because all the problems of the mind are not intrinsically part of it. Yeah? And then we were talking about the psychology of healing and how healing has to go on to both the the physical ailment as well as the causes of the ailment are negative karma. And then we talked about breaking through some fixed concepts, in particular the concept of our own permanence, meaning the fact that we're not going to die, or we think we're not going to die. Yeah? And then we were also talking about compassion and then the ultimate mode of existence of phenomena. So it is these two especially, building up our compassion and building up our correct view of how ourselves and other phenomena exist, that is the main kind of tools for our ultimate healing. Okay? Oh, we also talked a bit about karma, thanks to your questions. Okay? So, thank you very much.